Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. We had a lot of exciting things happening last week and we're here to recap them. Of course, I am talking about the 2023 CRPA Capitol Day. To do that with us, we've got Rick Travis, the Legislative Director of CRPA, on with us. Rick, how are you?
Wonderful. Good to be here.
It's good to have you, very much so. But before we get into this, I just wanted to say we are nearing our goal of 10,000 subscribers. So if you can, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps with the algorithms on YouTube. And we are still running the giveaway for the Springfield XD. So if you comment down below, hashtag CRPA for the win. Even if you commented on the last video, comment for another chance to win that firearm down below. You're going to increase your chances with every video that you comment on. The rules will be down in the description for you to look at there. But again, if you want a chance to win, comment hashtag CRPA for the win. Going back to last week, Rick, we had an awesome week. Something that hasn't been done in a couple of decades by a 2A group. We have the 2023 CRPA Capitol Day. Can you go ahead and just fill us in on exactly what was done there?
Yeah, great. We were able to bring together legislative volunteers from throughout our chapter program that you and your office run, Kevin, and we're able to bring them to the Capitol for something that had been done for nearly a quarter of a century. And what that was we were able to form up teams of both people that work in the Capitol, like myself, Nick Villa, who works for us, yourself, and Jess Harris, who's also part of our staff team. And we were able to divide up 22 members of our chapter programs and go office to office. We had 24 appointments in one day. Each of them lasted 20 to 30 minutes. And we were able to meet with senators, assembly members, and staff. I think it's important for people to know out there that, some people will be like, we only met with staff. Staff are there for lifetimes. Literally, some of the staff there are second, third generations in there, in that building. And whether you agree with that or don't agree with it, the point is we were able to have very successful meetings, able to talk to people both on the Republican and Democratic side, and able to move some issues forward that is resulting in some of those offices saying, okay, let's start prepping legislation that backs the Second Amendment for 2024.
Yeah, and we did it on a day that was the anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord, which you could say was the start of gun control in America. You could also say that that shot heard around the world was the start of the American Revolution, and therefore it was gun control that started the American Revolution. We're here fighting for Second Amendment rights, and it was such a great day to be commemorated there. And I really wanted to dig in with you. So, you see groups go to the Capitol and meet with legislators all the time. 24 appointments in one day. Is that a typical feat, or is that something exceptional that we were able to do?
It was very exceptional. But I want to go back to a point you made, Kevin, because I think the Second Amendment community sometimes glosses over, and I get it. We were all taught some pretty bad history, throughout the last, I'd say at least Gen X forward. And that is that, there's this guy named Paul Revere. Then on April 19th, 1775, does the Great Ride and says, the British are coming. That would have never been said. We were all British that day. There was no such thing as American. But at Lexington and Concord, when the British government came to seize our firearms and came to seize our ammunition, our powder, we said that was a bridge too far. That was the day those people became the first Americans, when they took up arms against their country, at that time, Great Britain, the most powerful country in the world, and said, we're not going to put up with this anymore. And April 19th wasn't about reviving the attitude of let's take up arms against this country. That's not what it was about. It was about remembering something, that as Americans, we have a 248-year history and tradition of fighting gun control, albeit, now we do it legislatively from a government. So for those members of the community are like, well, this is new and this didn't happen. It's been going on for almost 2.5 centuries. And I think what was extraordinary on Capitol Day was you saw men, women, people of color, youth, to people who are, I mean, our youngest was 10 years of age. Our oldest, I would guess, was in their late 60s, but it was an even mix. And that sent a powerful message through the Capitol halls and through the annex building where we have the majority of the meetings, because the left likes to portray Second Amendment rights as belonging to old white people. And when they got to see people of various backgrounds, hear their stories, hear their pleas, that's a game changer. And already this week, we've seen some of the Democrats who are moderate backing away from some of the bills that have been put forward this year because they're like, yeah, that's not totally true. And so these kind of events are huge in the making. And a lot of times people want to go to rallies, they want to fly flags, they want to do a lot of that stuff. That does not move the ball. In fact, it often ends up being imaged and used by the opposition to purport this is what we look like. But yet when people came in their normal clothes and really sat and had good, deep conversations about the harms caused by things like, you know, the CCW doxing that was done by the department, the Attorney General and the Department of Justice last summer, all the way through some of the bills that have been passed, some of the bills that are attempting to be passed, and gave real life examples. Those are things that cause pause in the legislature.
Yeah, and it really seemed like being in those meetings, the legislators and the staff, after hearing and putting faces to the the Second Amendment community that they might not have had before, it seemed like they really wanted to take action. You know, you hear things being said like, well, maybe we can inquire about this, or maybe we can start a committee or something like that, which sort of goes into my next question for you. So, you know, you have the Capitol Day, you talk to the legislators. What are some of the positive effects we're already seeing and some of the positive effects we expect to see from having a program like this consistently meeting with legislators in the Capitol?
Well, I think the positive effects immediately that we're seeing is, you know, we have a lot of discussion amongst the Capitol. And like I said, Capitol staffers from both sides of the party have lunches, coffees, you know, they meet each other in the elevators, as you got to see, and talk about stuff. And so, you know, we have people like Moms of Demand Action and others that bring sometimes cadres of 40, 50 people together on one bill. And it's very hard to collect a lot of people from the Second Amendment side on a bill. And those can become, as they were yesterday, pretty difficult testimonies and meetings, because you're getting called all sorts of names. And we've had, you know, members from NRA with Dan Reed, who I work with very closely, and Sam Paredes at Gun Owners of California, that all three of us have been called murderers and we just want to kill kindergartners and, you know, all sorts of stuff like that, and often don't have the ability to respond to those accusations. So having our members up there showing a completely different side that was be purported, like I said, it's caused some of the people in the middle to say, there's two sides to this and we're not taking the other side into consideration. That's not right. That can effectively kill bills, or as we've seen this week, several bills become what we call 2-year bills, which means they may not make it out of committee next year, but they're definitely dead for this year and aren't going to happen. So, and one of those is the gun insurance bill, Senate Bill 8, now a 2-year bill. You know, so it's a multiple of pressure points that we have to push to stop things in the legislature, and this was huge. You know, and I'm looking forward to more of these in the future. And looking forward to the next steps, because now we've got people actually considering legislation.
And that was the next thing. So you see all of these, I guess you could call them positive social enhancements, just people sort of gathering around the Second Amendment community, creating a larger voice. But now you're also saying this is going to be integral in creating pro-Second Amendment legislation going forward?
Yes, I mean, you know, one of the things that when I came into this position and you and I had discussed with our board, I think there was even a couple of videos that we talked about this, we were going to make a hard pivot and go on the offensive. And obviously our brilliant our litigation team has been doing that since the Bruin decision. But this is also since the defeat of 918 and 1227 last fall. This has been an ongoing effort by your office and my office to come together and figure out, let's quit doing what we've always been doing, what everybody's always been doing, and change the game. And this was a huge step in changing that game Part of it is going to be seeing what we're doing with legislators that, in fact, a couple of them that we met initially with on the political elections of 24 and 26 that are coming up. There's a lot of movement and a lot of areas to take back ground. And, one of the things that you pushed forward, Kevin, I thank you for it because it helps me in the Capitol, but pushing forward that the Bruin decision was really our Battle of Midway, to use the World War II analogy, and that each of these steps we're taking are taking back each one of those islands that we lost over the past couple of decades. And so returning in force was huge. I just want to make a point too. I'm in the Capitol all the time on behalf of our members, and in fact, on behalf of the way I view of every gun owner in California. And in doing that, often I can't get more than 5-10 minutes with a member or a staff member, sometimes in a month. So the fact that we were getting 20 to 30 minutes and we did that 24 times in one day, literally that was like 4 months worth of work in a day. That was huge.
Wow. Yeah. I guess when you put it into perspective like that, that is that is a pretty astounding feat. And we're going to be looking to do it again. And you're absolutely right. There has been a push on the grassroots side of things to unite our voice in this state. We seem so fractured sometimes as an overall Second Amendment community, and to be able to bring such a diverse group to the Capitol and show how we can unite as one voice to influence these legislators the way that they ought to be influenced, which is by the people, right? It's a tale as old as time now. We're viewing some of these politicians as people who are just working toward getting reelected. They should be working for us. And I can tell you, some of those offices that we went to really felt like those people wanted to work for us. So it was really refreshing for me to see when you have such a cynical vision of what Sacramento and politicians might look like from time to time. And I'm sure that those still exist too, right? You don't just have one or the other, but it was definitely refreshing to see. So Rick, I want to thank you for being with us here today. Any last thoughts as we're kind of rounding out this Capitol Day experience?
Yeah, I think what you said earlier in this is that, there's a lot of people that are fractured. I think part of that fracturing comes from all the various technologies. I'm not going to single anyone out that we use in our day-to-day life. And so there's always people coming up and purporting this creative idea and that creative idea. And I celebrate creativity and technology. But at the end of the day, I will tell you that there is so much of that in the capital space, like any other area of business, that it's not listened to, it's not heard, and it has to be over the top, and sometimes over the top doesn't work. But good old-fashioned grassroots, sitting down across from somebody, whether it's some of the Capitol offices have water, or like Halloween candy bar or something like that, and talking, that is where movement happens. And so the more grassroots things that we can do at the local level of simply going into politicians' offices, meeting candidates on the trail, having barbecues, doing things like that, being at the Capitol, doing that, it grows a game and it lets them have faces. And it's much harder for someone to vote or legislate against a child's face, a woman's face, a person of color's face, a group of people coming together that breaks the narrative of the opposing side. That's hard to get out of people's minds. It's very easy to make a narrative up and run it until it faces human face, touch, and talk. And when those things can be brought to the table along with the technologies, you can get wins. And I just want to thank you and everybody on staff at CRPA that I have the pleasure to work with and for this, because this is a definite game changer. And we've got to continue to do them, which I would say the next thing, Kevin, is the more people we can get of members to invite other members to these chapters that we're growing across the state and get more people involved in this grassroots legislative and political process, the more successful we're going to be.
Well, we're definitely going to continue pushing toward that, unifying large voice that we know exists in California that we call the Second Amendment community. And you know what? I'll throw a thanks right back at you, because when people are telling you you're going to be lucky to get 6 meetings with legislators and you go out there and get 24, that is freaking awesome. So thank you for providing the platform for us to be able to do this. We're really looking forward to doing the next one. And also, importantly, thank you very much for coming on and sharing this with us today. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Once again, guys, go ahead, leave a like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support the next Capitol Day, that's the best way you can do it. Let's explode this message. Let's show the world what CRPA is doing. It's really going to help us to get this message out there by liking, sharing, and subscribing to this channel. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.